Prior to commencing work, it's important that you carry out a full risk assessment and consider whether there is suitable lighting. If required, use your torch. You need to consider proximity of other equipment at the service position and assess whether the equipment will impede you working safely. If other equipment impedes working safely at the service position, then you should stop and contact your field team supervisor. In this instance, there is other equipment. However, it does not restrict you in working safely. For the benefit of this simulation, we'll concentrate on the work that requires to be undertaken at the service position cablehead, assuming that you have assessed the risk. Prior to commencing work, you should put on relevant PPE. For all metal-clad cableheads, operatives now require to wear a full-faced visor. Prior to touching the cablehead, you should also put on LV-insulated gloves. Further, for any work on metal-clad cableheads, you're now required to wear outer protective gloves. This provides further protection against arcing and also mechanical protection to protect the integrity of your LV-insulated gloves. You should now be wearing 2 pairs of gloves, LV-insulated gloves with outer protective gloves. It's important that this PPE is worn until the installation is safely isolated and when re-energizing. Prior to commencing work on the cablehead, operatives are asked to verify that the extraneous metalwork, including the cablehead casing, are not live. This should be carried out using the new Phase Finder test device. The new Phase Finder replaces your Neo mains tester. Please note, unlike the Neo mains tester, the new Phase Finder works whilst the operative is wearing LV-insulated gloves. On contact with a live source, the tester will emit an audible tone and the red LED is illuminated. Where voltage is detected from a live source, you should carry out further tests and checks with your Drummond test lamps to help identify the source. In instances where there is no voltage detected, there will be no audible alarm tone and no LED indication. Note, it's important that operatives use the self-test function on the new Phase Finder test device before and after use to confirm its operation. You can now cut and remove the seal. Let's take a look inside the cablehead. It should be noted that for most de-energized supplies, it would be normal that the operative would expect fuse carriers to be in place but unloaded. However, the design of this metal-clad cablehead and other similar metal-clad cableheads sometimes makes it difficult to try and reinsert the fuse carriers without the cartridge fuse being mounted within the fuse carrier. Note, it's common for the fuse carriers to be left removed. If there are no fuse carriers, then there is an additional risk of live terminals being exposed. It would be normal for an insulating cage to be in place, or in some instances, shrouding may have been fitted. However, if the insulating cage is missing, then this will result in terminals being potentially exposed once the cablehead cover is opened. It's important that a risk assessment is undertaken to identify whether the fuse carriers are in place. After cutting away the seal wire, you should carefully lift the cablehead cover slightly to clear the sealing lug. This will allow you to carefully open the metal cover by swinging it to the left. Caution: you may in certain circumstances be exposing live terminals. Now, open the cover slightly to allow you the opportunity to check to see if the insulating cage or shrouding is in place. In this instance, we can see that there is no insulating cage and no shrouding. Stop. Live terminals are exposed. You should carefully close the cablehead cover and take care not to dislodge the cover from the hinges. Reseal the cablehead and attach a Danger Live Mains warning label through the sealing wire. Contact your field team supervisor and report to Energy Network's trouble call. Let's take another look. In this instance, we can see that although there are no fuse carriers, the insulating cage is in place. You can now carefully open the cablehead cover, but be careful not to dislodge the cablehead cover from the hinges, as this may result in the cover dislodging the insulating cage from the retaining clips and creates the risk of a flashover. You need to open the cablehead cover by a minimum of 75 degrees to avoid striking the insulating cage when you lift the cover off the hinges. You must open the cover a full 90 degrees before you attempt to remove the cover off the hinges. In this instance, the insulating cage is in place, providing an element of protection. If you need to work on the outgoing terminals of the cablehead, you must use either insulated box shrouds or neoprene shrouding sheet to cover any live terminals. prior to energizing the supply, you must undertake a visual inspection of the customer tails and ensure that customer's main switch is isolated. In the case of re-energization, you must verify phase rotation by using your phase rotation tester, and you must also check polarity with your polarity tester. Make sure you follow your workplace reference manual procedures at all times.